Yeah, we are live.
No, the YouTube link is not up yet.
Yeah, I'm putting it up.
Okay, we are live.
Yeah, please stop until, well, don't say anything until the YouTube link. And then we'll have to give people a couple of minutes to join.
It's there, the YouTube link.
We are live, Shannon.
Okay, Shannon, can you just hold on a second because people need a minute or two. Amit, when you click on the link, it says live in 3 hours at 2:30 p.m.
Oh, okay, it's the wrong link.
If it's the wrong link, Aksha, can you delete it?
Hi, Peeyush. Don't worry. I will ask you the question verbally, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? So that's my job as your moderator. I'll find the questions and ask them to you. So you don't have to stress, okay? You just stand here, get your brain ready to answer the questions, and I'll ask them to you. So you don't have to, it's too hard to view many things, so don't worry. That's why I'm here.
Can we start with? Shannon, you can probably start. Okay.
Please let me know when I can start.
Please start, Shannon.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that fantastic introductory talk. We have a wonderful first session for you starting this morning with a series of 3 excellent talks. So we'll jump right in because we're a couple minutes late. Always the case when you're doing an online conference at the beginning. It gets a little while to get everything going, and actually I'll have all of the audience understand. So thank you for your patience, and we're trying to all be patient with each other. It's one of the key things with citizen science. So I will start by introducing our first talk of this session by Peeyush Sekhsaria. The title of his talk is Rain Gauging, Hyperlocal Rainfall Data Generation. He is a disaster management specialist with a master's in architecture and an MPhil in geography. Peeyush has been involved directly in a rain gauging exercise in Pune since last year, and he's currently working as a consultant in the domains of environment, disaster management, and development. Peeyush, we're looking forward to your talk, and I'll ask you questions after.
Hi, this is Peeyush, and I'm going to talk to you about a citizen science project of sorts that I've been part of for 2 years. This is the second year. It's called Rain Gauging, Hyperlocal Rainfall Data Generation. My co-author is Abhijit Gandhi, and let's go. So this work is situated in Pune, and Pune, as you all probably know, is actually situated at the edge of the Western Ghats. And as far as rainfall and rainfall patterns are concerned, it's very interesting because it's at the transition zone of the Western Ghats and the Deccan Plateau. And that throws up a whole sort of interesting work to do for rain gauges. So this is the second year in running that citizens in Pune are engaging. When we define Pune, we are talking of the municipal corporations of Pune, Pimpri-Chinchwad, and the cantonments. And beyond that, a sort of larger urban agglomeration limit of Chakan on the north. You can see it in the yellow pin. Sortapwadi on the east at the right end. And at the left bottom, you can see the Kharakpasla Dam. There are 46 rain gauges that are part of this exercise, out of which 39 are located within these limits of Pune, as I just defined for you all. And then there are 7 other gauges that are located at places outside Pune. In 2021, we actually upgraded the exercise, wherein everybody was now using IMD certified standard rain gauges, as opposed to 75% of the participants who had made their own rain gauge last year. The main reason for this is to generate scientific, technically sound, accurate data that is acceptable by standards. A bulk order at discounted rates, further subsidized by Aquadam, ensured that the rain gauges were available to participants at a really small price. Additionally, the exercise has also been enlarged. In 2020, we had 34 rain gauges, within which 29 were in Pune. And in 2021, we have 46 rain gauges, from which 39 are in Pune. Basically to cover Pune more comprehensively. Gaps were identified visually, and potential participants were identified specifically from these areas. So how does it work? It's a bit like an 8:30 a.m. rainfall. That's the international standard for collecting rainfall data. All participants are on a WhatsApp group by the name Rain Enthusiasts. Participants WhatsApp their readings measured ideally at 8:30 a.m. or a convenient fixed time, which remains the same daily, through a personal WhatsApp message to Abhijit. And the consolidated readings are sent back to the participants via an image of an XLS sheet on the WhatsApp. The daily readings are grouped by geographical locations. Readings from the 3 IMD locations of Pashan, Shivajinagar, and Lohgaon are in this list in dark blue. Readings from locations out of Pune are at the bottom of the list. And at the bottommost is a reading of Mulshi Dam, which is effectively the westernmost edge and which has the highest rainfall. Learnings. So let's look at what we've learned and some interesting things here. So one is Pune's rainfall varies greatly from one location to another on a daily basis. On July 24, which was effectively the reading at 8:30 a.m. And of the past 24 hours, and the highest rainfall day this season in Bawkhals, which is at the western edge, it rained 107 mm, whereas Sortapwadi at the eastern edge, it was about 45 millimeters. So it's actually almost 110% variation. Similarly, there's great variation on a monthly basis. Again, the two extremes are Bawkhals at 341.5 mm for the month of July and Sortapwadi at 111.2. And similarly, there's also great variation seasonally for the period May 16th to August 17th, August 27th. Bawkhals was at 673.6 mm and Sortapwadi was at 308. So you can see that there's a significant variation between these areas, although they all come in some sense under Pune. there is a significant difference, and that has a lot of implications, and we'll talk about it later. So amongst other things, there is a clear east-west divide with Bavdhan located at the western edge in the largest blue circle, and Sortapwadi located actually on the eastern edge, being the lowest. And you can see that the difference is quite significant. It's more than 110% for this period. Now, what drives rain gauges? I conducted a Google survey. 25 out of the 46, 25 out of the 46 participants responded. Simple curiosity emerged as a key driver for people to join. And 28% of them felt that they would like to help the gap between science and citizenship. They've been measuring rainfall for over 100 days now. So what was the main motivation? The main motivation for 71% was enjoyed the activity. And 67% felt that they were contributing something, not necessarily science. And amongst the major takeaways was that almost everybody, or I would say everybody, felt that the exercise brought them closer to nature. It's also important to add that this activity was shared on an online platform of Bawkhals, which is a Marathi environmental magazine. And that led to a parallel exercise that's going on across Maharashtra, where over 200 people have signed up. And there are at least 100 people who are measuring rainfall daily and very meticulously across the state. And some interesting readings are definitely going to come out of there. Some conclusions. Citizen science has gained acceptance as a term. There seems to be larger understanding, especially when I look at this group from a similar exercise I had undertaken last year. With Pune's location in the transition zone between the Western Ghats and the Deccan Plateau, citizen rain gauges cover a vital gap in rainfall data. Gap analysis based on geographical features and not visually alone could address some rain data blind spots. There, of course, would be a sweet spot as to when there are enough rain gauges in a city. But I feel that, importantly, we are looking at a fairly wide coverage, but there still could be some blind spots. Rain gauging amongst the participants generated greater understanding of Pune's rainfall pattern, weather reports, and the monsoon. However, more effort is required to improve understanding of phenomena like humidity, floods, flash floods, drought, Pune's catchment, and its water supply. Children, as you would have seen in the images, take to rain gauging enthusiastically, and it is an excellent low-cost learning activity. What to do with all this data? Contributing this data to platforms that can put it to use is still not evident. However, it is being used by Aquadam, which is a groundwater organization. Such hyperlocal data can be used in a whole set of ways to inform selection of appropriate plant species for urban scaping, heat action plans, climate responsive built form, managing water stress, better water supply management, early warning for extreme events, groundwater management, you name it. Thank you from me, Abhijit. The two of us have authored this, but there's a whole set of people who are actively rain gauging and people beyond that who are also participating, supporting the exercise. Open to questions. Thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Possible. All right, thank you so much, Peeyush, for that awesome talk. I actually want to ask the first question because I actually have a burning question, but please, anyone listening, please put your questions in the thread under the Day 1 September Talks AM section. You'll find it there and you'll see there's already a couple of questions there. Because my question is, since variability is actually one of the major observations that you made, variability is also a result of often different citizens using slightly different methodologies to measure. How did you reconcile the two? I found it really amazing what you've done. So.
Sorry, Sharon, can you hear me now? Yeah. I'm sorry, could you just quickly repeat the question? I had a bit of a connectivity issue.
My question was actually about the variability in the data was one of your observations, but it's also a result of citizen science when people use slightly different methodologies. So I just want to know how you reconciled the two.
Okay. So basically this year, what we did is that all of us used standard rain gauges made by the same manufacturer and certified by IMD. And Abhijit, who sort of runs this program, also does a quick comparison with the closest rain gauges, because there have been cases where we were getting inconsistent readings from certain rain gauges. And then these rain gauges were specially checked. And in some cases, the rain gauge was actually handed over to somebody else in the same locality. So two ways. One is the instrument, some amount of training initially to everybody who was participating, and then a careful check on a daily basis on the rain readings that were coming in.
Thank you very much. There's a question from Nishan, who asked, any other places where this experiment is happening other than Pune?
Yeah, so we've now started to come to know of some other places. There is a very interesting exercise happening in one river valley or in one river catchment in Kerala. I can't remember the name now, but they've been rain gauging and also measuring the levels in this west flowing river. And it has actually now created impact in terms of saving lives during the last flash flooding event. And also the data is being picked up by newspapers like Malayalam Manorama and is being published. So that's one. And the other one that I talked of that I know of is a larger exercise in Maharashtra itself, which was partly inspired by the exercise that I'm part of.
It's really fantastic. I'm just going to ask one quick question. And Peeyush, since I see that you're active on Slack, maybe you can answer. There's actually several other questions, but we have to move on. If you can maybe answer those there. So there's some other really good questions. So I'll just ask Mayresh's question. How many people were approached for the study? And among them, how many are participating regularly?
So actually, it was an announcement on social media. And so people got in touch with Abhijit and they started work. So last year we had about 35 rain gauges, including about 29 in the definition of Pune, the way I defined it. And this year we've jumped up to about 46. Whereas this year, additionally, Abhijit identified certain blind spots, and we focusedly looked at those areas to identify people who participate. So it's an open activity, but at the same time, it's not out there on Facebook or on social media for mass participation.
Right, but I'm sure it's also probably growing from word of mouth as well,
yes,
because of its success. Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating. It was a really great talk and really, really interesting study. And I wish you all the best as you grow this project. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. So let's move on to our next speaker. It's Sachin Marti. Sachin's going to be talking about citizen science action protecting the Bawkhals. And Sachin is a project manager at Yuvavika Santa, where they have been working towards conservation of traditional water bodies from Vasai, Virar region for the past 10 years. Currently, their plan is to document these water bodies and develop the scheme for protection. And over the years, he has been engaged in saving traditional water ponds and water quality awareness work. Thank you so much, Sachin, and we will start your talk in YouTube right now.
The case study that we will be presenting today is part of my doctoral dissertation on citizen science and activism for conservation and restoration of water bodies in a rapidly urbanizing periphery of Mumbai. This presentation is a combination of my ethnographic fieldwork between 2018 and 2020 and contribution of my co-author, who is an active street scientists or citizen scientists in the field. Now, in this study, we try to unpack the work done by these street scientists, or a term that I borrowed from Jason Corbin on his work on community initiatives, environmental policy, and data, and put it along with literature on urban intermediaries, as well as the role of these intermediaries in generating scientific knowledge and data, as well as their engagement with the wider community. We also try to focus on the modes through which this data collected, or this information that is collected, is disseminated both within the community and outside. And finally, end with the potential of these practices to work with formal planning and governance processes. Now, when I began my research, I was interested in tracking the history of a social movement around water conservation and anti-urbanization in the region in the 90s and starting from the 80s till the 2000s. I was meeting with members of the local NGO, which was at the forefront of this. And what struck me was that each one of them mentioned that I should meet this young people who were doing good work on water. This will be relevant later in the presentation. Finally, when I met Sachin, who's a co-author of this paper, he has a degree in social work, works for an NGO, and asked me if I was there for the data. It was later that I realized that he had been part of this exercise of conducting annual surveys and mapping exercises that involved, along with a group of volunteers, enumerating water bodies in the region, as well as collecting other measurements. Now, how does this process of measurement go? To take you through it quickly, it begins by identifying a zone along the coastal region, which is dotted with small communities and villages, and beginning with an enumeration or identification of water bodies. So these could involve bore wells, ponds, wells, both private and collectively owned, as well as Bawkhals, which is in the title of this presentation, which are small water reservoirs. After this, they link up with social institutions which are active. So this could be village committees or the local parish committees, and giving them a presentation about what it is that they want to do. Following this, there is the next stage is that of field-based data collection, which involves coding every water body, measuring its depth, height, width, geotagging it, as well as listing out uses. After this, they meet with the local well diggers to get information on hydrogeology, what is the noting down what the correct depth or the ideal depth for striking water is, collecting water and soil samples. And after this, once the data is collected and analyzed, there is a meeting once again in which they present their findings to the community and suggest solutions. In case of recharging the Bawkhal, which is visualized here, they also managed to get help of some environmental planners for design expertise in finding recharging zones and discharging. However, I was very curious about what motivated Sachin and others, his colleagues, to do what they do. When I asked him how he began doing this, he said, we already had a movement in the 80s and the 90s, and a lot of it was based on testing and surveying water bodies. And you can see some of the archives from the 90s, where it was based on measuring, testing water quality. And he continues, after a while, people kind of forgot about water as they moved away from agriculture into more service-related industries. But I wanted to protect these water sources and reduce our dependence. So their activities do not simply emerge as a response to a problem of water deterioration, but also is situated in past community models of how water conservation is done, or what happens to water, or the question of water. His point about reducing dependence must also be seen in the context of the historical conflict between the urbanizing part of the region, a rapidly urbanizing part of the region, and the villages. This helps us understand why and what motivates the actions of these citizen scientists and their push for raising awareness for stewardship of water resources. Additionally, what and why they collect and measure is also subject to a lot of factors. So while some of them have a background in chemistry and therefore focus on chemical components of water, Sachin does not have what you might consider to be a conventional scientific training. However, when I asked him about it, he explained an iterative process of learning through which he accesses all freely available information on geology, hydrology, measurements, international and national standards of water, and therefore we can see why his focus is on aquifers and water reservoirs. He also complements the self-learning with accessing networks of expertise. So I had an opportunity to accompany him to Pune to meet Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni, where he outlined his methodology, double-checked each step, and then proceeded to come back home and implement it within the community. So again, as a local citizen scientist, he not only mediates his findings with the local residents, but also is a go-between for external technical expertise and translates it for local conditions. Now, the issue with locally available knowledge is well known and well identified, especially in terms of common pool resource management. However, it is important to therefore it is important to contextualize the nature of local knowledge. So these citizen scientists often take into account locally available information like nature of the soil, digging depth of the well, and also display an awareness of how potent local narratives can be. As I mentioned earlier, there was a movement around water conservation, which focused a lot on the question of salinity in the water. As a result, every person who while accompanying him on a survey, suggested that the water was bad and it was very salty, or the salinity was very high. But as Sachin points out, this is not true for across the board because the region differs in hydrological features as well as levels of salinity. We can see the focus that comes from a historical basis, and the repeated question of why salinity is the only thing that people are interested in. The data which is collected also transform depending on the audience and the intended goals. For example, if we were to present it here, it would be a number of enumerated water bodies, what the hydrology is like, and what needs to be done to protect the aquifers. However, within the community, the data is not presented as a set of just dry numbers. It's combined with consultations and sharing of expertise for rejuvenating some of these water bodies, how to do rainwater harvesting, question of water quality, and not just statistics, but infographics and local and religious metaphors. Some of the sessions which I attended saw Sachin invoking the past, where he would remind people of the fact that there was an agrarian past when agriculture was the main source of livelihood, and using that argument to push forward an idea of stewardship of water resources for the future. Another process that is at play, along with building the database, is the building of social capital. So while the people I follow or my informants do not necessarily essay a central role in community leadership, they are often and almost always consulted in matters of water. As I mentioned at the beginning of this section, all my initial interviews suggested that I meet them. Finally, I would like to highlight the limitations of the work done by Sachin and his colleagues. As both of them have repeatedly informed me, they are aware of many other tests and measurements that they would be interested in doing, or other pollutants that they might want to check for, but are often impeded by prohibitively high costs. So then activities then are equally shaped by financial considerations and access to resources. And the way they try to get around this is by building networks and coalitions. So while they're limited by financial resources, they're always on lookout for grants and fellowship, which allow them to buy newer machines, hire more people, and help with the surveys. They also participate in capacity building workshop and presenting their findings. In fact, this paper itself could be seen as an evidence or consequences of this process of network building, whereby I collaborated with Sachin to work on this together. In conclusion, at the beginning, I said that we try to unpack the activities of these citizen scientists and the data that they're generating. And the increasing amount of attention that is being given to citizen science projects and community involvement does present a useful way of thinking about resource management and planning. However, as we have seen, it is important to outline the historical conditions, access to technical expertise, and local narratives, which shape not only how people think about hydrology, but also the priorities and methods that are used in these activities. The data is not a homogeneous whole, but is deployed differently depending on who's listening and who's not listening. It also influences the position of these people as intermediaries, which builds their reputation and social capital. We must be careful about the risk of concentration of power that may happen because of this, but the building of legitimation, both externally and internally, cannot be denied. There are limitations to finance, time, and resources. However, things do move. In the last 3-4 years that I have been working in this area, I've already seen the focus shifting from only rainwater harvesting, as it was in the 90s, to a more closer understanding of hydrogeology and protecting and restoring water bodies. Finally, I'd like to argue that this example could provide a prototype for acknowledging local knowledge and its limitations, but giving it institutional validity and space to engage with and co-produce policies for sustainable water resources and other ecosystems in the future. Thank you.
I want to thank both Sachin and actually Cyrus Ladero, who is the one actually speaking through this talk. And I would ask you to post your questions for them. I'm not sure if you both will be answering the questions. So, but I actually have a question for you. You know, you mentioned the chemical aspects of the work that you're doing, and we often think of language barriers in terms of, you know, our human language, but there's also the human language of science as well. So I wanted to know, how did you parse some of the scientific terminology with the communities? Because of course that would be very, very new to many of them. I'm just very interested in that.
Thank you for the question. I think Sachin would be best equipped to answer this. But I think the only thing I would add is that the part about him using metaphors and him trying to couch difficult or hard to understand language in locally understood terms. I think that's one thing. But I'll let Sachin. He'll probably have a much better answer.
Okay. Thank you so much for questions. Basically, when we collecting the data, first of all, we ask the information with the local digger, like well digger. We collected the soil sample from him, and we asked like what locally called this soil layer. After that, same information we checked with the like local communities, like local aged people, because they know the information about the like local soil and local soil layers. And that same information we continuously talking with the Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni. He is a hydrogeologist. So we are in hydrogeology, what is exactly like strata, what is exactly importance of the soil, and what is like features that we check with the Himanshu sir, and he explained us very well. And that same information in scientific language we convert with while doing the community presentation. So community also get the scientific knowledge about this soil and about the water quality.
So Nishan brought up that there's this importance of local language in citizen science, and he has a question about literature about it. But I want to extend his question a little further, because you brought up a very important point, that the local communities had their own terminology and words. So I was wondering, did that also educate the science? Did some of the knowledge they had about the soil and the characteristics actually give you scientific information as well?
Sachin, you can take this one.
Ma'am, can you please repeat, because there is some like network.
Sure. Sorry. I wanted to know, you spoke beautifully about the local communities having their own terminology and own descriptions of a lot of the soils and various aspects of the research that you were doing. And I'm wondering if those descriptions themselves also provided scientific knowledge, that they, you know, the very language that they use provided input into the knowledge of the soil or the water that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, that's totally true, because normally in like in local area, because I'm also staying in same village, and I have also got some knowledge information from same region, same from expert. But first of all, like normally people think about only about their well. They are not thinking about the aquifer. So I need to explain them what is the meaning of the aquifer. Also, another thing is like why the after like depth, importance of the depth, because in my this is a totally arid area. If you increase the depth, you will get the saline water. And also the some of the layers specifically in my region, I have found in there's a one local layer called Menda. This is a layer full soil layer full of the sulfate. So I explained them about what is important of this layer and why we need to go, why we not need to touch that layer. If we touch that layer, our drinking water will be saline. So I explained this knowledge information with the local with the connected information from local digger and traditional knowledge. So it helped me to make a plan or make a graph to show the community.
It's really impressive work you're doing, and I also very, very much appreciate you incorporating the local and traditional knowledge into the research. This is really, really excellent work. Congratulations. There are some more questions and comments in Slack, but I think we should move on to our last talk. But I want to thank you both. It was really excellent work you've done. Thank you for participating in our conference.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
our last speaker of this session is Sreeparna Dutta. She is a project biologist at the Turtle Survival Alliance India program at WCS. She works on the Terai Arc landscape, understanding the freshwater turtle population in the Sarju River. She also provides tech support and helps in mapping and GIS work. And she has been working with Citizen Science Initiative called the Indian Turtle Conservation Action. And she's going to talk about KURMA, an expanding network for chelonian conservation and data collection in India. So we'll start her talk now.
I'm
Thank you.
Sreeparna Dutta from Turtle Survival Alliance India, and today I am going to talk about KURMA, a citizen science initiative solely for freshwater turtles of India. Before starting my talk, I would like to thank the conference committee for giving me this opportunity. As we all know, turtles play a significant ecological role by providing various ecosystem services, of which the major one is they clean our aquatic ecosystem by scavenging on dead. India is a global biodiversity hotspot of turtle with 34 species, of which 24 species is of freshwater turtles, 5 species of tortoises, and 5 species of marine turtles. However, freshwater turtles are highly threatened due to various types of threats like for illegal trade, meat trade, pet trade, habitat destruction, alteration, and human consumption, leading to listing about 86.2% of the species in the threatened category of IUCN Red List. And here you can see 27% is listed as critically endangered and 38% already as endangered. Unfortunately, a severe dearth of knowledge is also existing among citizens on how to coexist with this species, being unaware about their importance and the fact how all these threats are impacting the turtles which they are facing. So basically, in a national level strategic freshwater turtle and tortoises meeting held in 2011, it was recommended that a citizen science initiative should be started for turtles of India. And in 2018, ITCN or Indian Turtle Conservation Action Network was initiated, followed by a launch of application in 2020 and a development of website in 2021. So what is ITCN? ITCN is basically a network of like-minded people, NGOs, researchers to interact, to share their knowledge and for protecting critical turtle habitat and to strengthen a network of interested citizens that will work towards conserving this species. Basically, we engage citizens through social media like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where they can post, where we post an interesting fact about turtle, their evolutionary history, threats, and various other posts to engage public and get them more involved. We also post appreciation posts for people who help in turtle rescue to motivate other individuals to get involved in the work. There is also a network of state coordinators followed by volunteers who work in their respective state to increase the awareness about turtles through educational programs, turtle walks, and surveys. Also, the mobile application is a tool of ITCAN which help in serving as a digital database for turtle identification and reporting. So in this new digital era, with most people having access to internet and a smartphone, we thought that it is the most commonly used medium through which general public can become a significant contributing authority on recording turtle sighting, reporting illegal activities, and a medium to motivate, encourage, and aware them about turtles. Thus, the mobile application KURMA was launched for engaging citizen scientists for recording turtle reportings and to make them aware about the various identification features of turtle. So this application has three major features. One is digital field guide, which can be offline desynchronized. Here, people can find various legal protection of turtles with their scientific and local name, and also regional names in like Hindi, Bangla, and other regional names. Information about turtles, morphology, habitat, and nesting. The next feature is report a turtle, where citizen can directly report their observation, wild observation or rescue observation, including information about what they saw about the species, any illegal activities, or if a turtle is being sighted in a commercial market or pet market. The next feature is assistance facilities, where citizens can directly use this geotagged map to reach their nearest facility if they find a turtle injured and if they want to rescue them. So they can use this map to reach to those sites. So after the launch until date, we have 2,310 users, and here you can see the heat map from where major users have registered, and which is Northern India, Northeast India, Eastern India, and Western India. So basically in Northern India, UP is the major area where this red blotch is formed, and here people are almost aware and sensitized about various turtles living here, and in this area 15 species of turtles are recorded. And here you can see after the launch, there was a peak in the user registration as the app was uploaded by the environment minister then, and it was publicized hugely both in international and national media. After that, daily about 5 to 9 users registers with this application. Out of 29 species, observational and rescue reports have came in for 26 species with a total record of 263 sightings, with maximum species reporting of Leishmania punctata. Here you can see, and it is believed this species is one of the most common species available all across India, which can be easily sighted mainly after monsoon. Next species which you can see is the puncturas. Puncturas are also easily sighted, and we have also got observation and rescue reports of few endangered turtles like Nilsonia nigricans, Batagu kachuka, and Batagu dhamboka. We also target and have received report of various situations of reporting, like for observational record maximum is from wild, covering 64% of the users, and various activities like the behavior they are in, like basking, surfacing, has been also reported in this wild observation. A few observations are also from religious shrines and community ponds. As we all know, people in India deposit turtles as they believe it to be holy and deposit in this religious ponds. So now a major population can be found in these community ponds also. Rescue reports have also been major from the wild and personal holdings, and few rescue reporting have also been reported by frontline forest staff also. As you can see, the maximum reports have been received from Northern India, which is UP, followed by West Bengal and Maharashtra. Majority reports have been from this state, as we all know that there is being some conservation intervention from various organizations in this area, focused conservation intervention, and more or less people knows various species, and thus they are reporting from these areas. However, it is now important, like various awareness and sensitizing workshop are required in all the states, so that majority of the people report their sighting in this application, or else most of the pictures remains in their Facebook profiles only. So after the launch, we had updated the application and launched this website also to reach more and more users. Statistical integration was also incorporated so that we receive more data. And in this portal, here you can see people can now get to see which species are recorded the most. We can also see the top contributors to encourage more and more users. In the next year, we believe more maps will be generated with the species recordings and their distributions. We have also did few training dedicated to the frontline forest staff to use KURMA in their daily monitoring. So till now, 163 frontline forest staff has been trained to use KURMA for reporting their confiscation and rescue reports, and 160 army personnel has also been trained, and they are using this application to report their rescue and confiscations. So the major prospect we are thinking about that this application will help to identify critical habitat where major researchers can't reach, but citizens can easily record their data. This data which we are receiving can help to formulate species distribution and model. We are also in a process to develop the AI system where this application can be used to directly identify species. And this can also be a major tool for monitoring and research, as researcher can use this application to record their sighting and make a checklist like we can do in other citizen science initiative application like eBird. But the major potholes which we are now facing is to engage the citizen. Engaging citizen is very hard for freshwater turtles to make them report. Basically, like for birds are fancy. Everyone gets to see birds in their backyard. But for freshwater turtles, you have to go out, search for it, and they are very shy species. So it's very difficult for people to spot them. And if people spot them, it gets more difficult to make them report in the application. So that is a major challenge we are facing. Additionally, financial implication is also there for this application, as a backend needs a recurring cost. Then the portal where we store the data, that also needs a recurring cost. So, and we are continuously developing, and the users are also increasing, and the data is also increasing. So a financial implication is also there. We will try to collaborate with other citizen science initiative, like with mainly for sea turtles, as we are planning to include sea turtles also in the application. So we will try to collaborate with other citizen science initiative also. So last but not the least, I would like to thank the citizens of India, without whom all this kind of data are very difficult to get. Turtle Survival Alliance India and Wildlife Conservation Society India for their financial and logistical support. Leopard Tech Lab for developing the application. ITCM team who regularly post, look after the application, curate the data, and Mr. Josh Lewis for giving critical inputs for developing this initiative. If you have any question, you can mail us at kurma.turtlesurvival@gmail.com, or you can reach through our social media handles and website www.indianturtles.in. Thank you so much.
Sreeparna, really amazing work, really exciting what you've done, and this app is really, really cool. So congratulations on that. We do have a couple of questions, so I'm going to start asking them. It's also a question I have as well, is how do you use the app to understand the species once the photos are uploaded, right? If you don't really know what the names are, maybe you're not as experienced, and are there local language options? I mean, how do you identify the species?
So basically, we are trying to integrate the artificial intelligence also, but for that we need lots of photos backup, and the database needs to have a lots of photo for that thing. But right now we have a backend team. After someone uploads a species photo, and there is a field guide there, of course, to identify the species. However, we are in the backend to correctly identify it and put that name on that, and then after that you can see it's visible in the application and the website. So right now we are doing it manually, but after we get lots of data, and if you get an API like collaborating with other application like iNaturalist or something like that, we will kickstart the artificial intelligence thing also.
It's really amazing work, and I think very difficult to identify from photos. I know with insects, which I work on, it's very, very difficult. So
Exactly.
Farida has another question about, do you have provisions for reporting invasive species?
Yeah, we have in the recent update, when we launched the app, we had launched the application in 23rd May 2020, and in this 2021 we have made provisions for invasive species also. And right now we are moving towards for sea turtles. We have 5 species of sea turtles in India, so we are moving toward that, so people can report the observation of that also. Yeah.
And I'll just ask one more question by Peeyush, and there's more questions that you will find in Slack. He wants to know, what are the insights from the people using the app? Like, what keeps them using the app and what drives them?
Yeah, so this is the most difficult thing to driving people to post or report their observation in the application. And the most difficult thing is that turtles are very difficult to spot. People needs to go out, walk by a river and get to see a turtle. So we keep on engaging them through social media posts, through blogs, and we have also made the website where we try to post the top 3 users who are posting their reporting. So all these things we are trying to encourage them. We do many such competitions like spotting the turtle or photography competition. So all these things are we are doing to engage them. But this is the most hardest part or the hardest thing I think everyone faces with every citizen science initiative.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sreeparna. There's more questions for you on Slack.
Yeah.
I want to take the time now to thank all 3 of our presenters this morning. They were fantastic. I also want to encourage everyone who's listening to this that these talks will be available at this channel for the duration of the meeting, so you can rewatch them. Please ask questions, continue to ask questions to the speakers. And speakers, I would encourage you to also respond to their questions on Slack and engage in this conversation, because you've really done some great work and it's great to learn about it. So thank you, everyone. We will be taking a very short break and we'll be coming back at 12:30 to another channel, which is actually the posters channel. And we have a series of posters for you to view and discuss with the presenters as well. So thank you, everyone, for a fantastic morning session. Bye. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think we're done.